Is a Tommy Reynolds Jimmy Calandra interview in the works? Never say never. Today we're going to dive into the first interview Tommy Reynolds did with Chad Marks and addressing what's next for the former Bath Avenue Crew member. I'm going to tell you why people are wrong about him and address some of the criticism thrown at Chad Marks and Tommy Reynolds. So what is really going on between Jimmy Calandra and Tommy Reynolds? We'll get to that next on Real Mob Stories with James Proctor. So the Tommy Reynolds interview with Chad Marks, I was a little surprised. I knew it was going to come out. I wasn't sure when. I'm friends with Chad Marks. I don't really know Tommy at all. I just know of his reputation, everything, of who he was as part of the Bath Avenue Crew. But, obviously know Chad Marks. He had really helped to get Tommy Reynolds out on compassionate release. And Chad Marks, is a great person. I thought that, I thought the interview was pretty good. But one of the things that I've noticed, coming out of this interview is a lot of people have been critical of both Tommy and Chad. And it surprised me a little bit, but in another way it's not, because of the way people are around here. People tend to be negative and want to criticize. And so I want to just give a few thoughts of this interview before we move on. So I thought Tommy did the right thing by addressing what happened with Judy Shemtov. He said that he was sorry about that. He showed a lot of remorse about that. And that was important in my opinion, because there is some people, including myself to a point, that feel that he was given a little bit of a break. I felt that he should have stayed in maybe a little bit longer, but at the same time, I do think that he's changed. And so when you combine all of that, it's a decision that's not easy to make. And I think it's important that we never lose sight of the victim on that. We can't lose sight of Judy Shemtov. What happened there was just terrible. It can't ever be taken back. A family's been, tragically, altered and hurt, forever because of it. And it was senseless. It never should have happened. And Tommy Reynolds addressed that. I thought that was really key. I thought that Chad did ask some pretty tough questions. We know that Chad and Tommy were in prison together. They were pretty close in prison, and they've continued a relationship even since Chad got out. So I thought that, that's always tough, honestly, when you have a interview of somebody that you're friends with. It's hard sometimes to be objective, but I felt that Chad did a good job of balancing that. Chad's pretty good when it comes to interviewing people. He's pretty good about not allowing, his personal feelings to keep him from asking those questions. So I thought that was pretty good. A lot of the criticism, I think, is unwarranted. Some people were saying that he came across as someone that was like a boxer that had been hit in the head too many times or whatever. And I didn't like that. I don't like that too much. I think that Tommy obviously was very reserved. He was thinking about what he wanted to say before he said it. And you got to understand that Tommy Reynolds doesn't have experience being, in front of a camera. So this was something new, but he had made the promise to Chad that he would interview, be the first interview, and that's what happened. And I think that Tommy is, to me, it was a little surreal seeing Tommy. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't think that he was really going to go in too deep about his life with the Bath Avenue Crew. I know that he's trying to move past a lot of that. I know that he's trying to make this new start, and he's also trying to take care of his mother, be there for his family. And I think what was really telling was where he was talking about technology. He was talking about how things had changed so much since when he was out on the street. And that's a common thing that I hear from a lot of prisoners that get out. They'll be in for, 20, 30 years like Tommy, and then they're having to be expected to just, get into the technology, get into what's happening, and it's so different. And also, I think the other thing is when people want to criticize Tommy, they got to also understand that in prison you have a regimented you kind of have this regimented life. And I don't think the Bureau of Prisons or any prisons for the most part do a good job of preparing people for the outside world. I know that part of the idea of having a halfway house is to slowly get people into society again. But, the problem that we're having with the halfway house, especially with the Bureau of Prisons, is that there is an overload. There's not enough space and for the people. And so a lot of these guys are getting released without much time in a halfway house. And, people are having to wait 6 months to a year to even get into a halfway house. And I think that really does hurt a person trying to adjust back into society. So Tommy's in that realm right now. He's only been out for a month. So where he's at today is that he is trying to get back into society, understand what's going on. I can tell that he's struggling with, I think there's a lot of anxiety there. That's something that's very common for people getting out of a prison. And so Chad, when he wants to ask about questions of the Bath Avenue Crew and everything in the past, I just don't think that that's something, Tommy really is comfortable talking about at this time. He needs a little time back in society first. He needs to figure out what he wants to do. I mean, he had been dreaming of this moment for 26 years that he would be back with his family, and now that it's happened, I'm sure it's a surreal experience. So any sort of added any sort of idea that he was slow or not responding the perfect way, you just need to be understanding of where he is at. And so as far as things that surprised me, I was a little surprised. I thought Tommy might have done this interview maybe a little. I was expecting he was going to wait maybe a couple of more months before he did that. Again, he's only been out for a month. I thought that it was there wasn't really too much surprise. I wasn't really sure what to expect to hear from him. I was happy to, or at least I was. It was good to hear that he addressed Judy Shemtov and the remorse. I thought that was just really critical, and so that didn't surprise me. My understanding, he has changed a lot in prison. He's not that same person, and I just think that he's going through a lot of change. So anything I would have liked to have heard differently, I'm not sure. I'd like to hear more of the stories, obviously, about the Bath Avenue Crew. We've heard a lot from Jimmy Calandra, but it would be interesting to hear Tommy Reynolds' take on some of this, but I don't know if that will necessarily happen. And so my recommendation for Tommy Reynolds is just stay off YouTube. Don't, at least for now, don't deal with any of this negativity. I recommend for him that he just focuses on him. He focuses on his life, his family, his like going back into society. Don't do too much at once. Try to take things one step at a time. Find ways to be able to, I think part of it, you just can't be hosed up in the house, right? But at the same time, you don't want to be around those negative people that you were with previously. So I think there's a balance there, but yeah, I'm glad that Tommy's not by himself, that he's with his mom. I just think he needs a lot of support and love for his family. As far as the Shemtovs go, I feel very bad for them. I'm not sure what they think about all this. I'm sure they're not happy. But at the same time, this is what the government made the decision. They said, he's out. He paid his price, and so it is what it is. And then what's up with Tommy Reynolds and Jimmy Calandra? So that's what's interesting. All the questions in the chat was, what about Tommy and Jimmy? What about Tommy and Jimmy? Everyone wants to see some sort of chaos or some sort of fight, some sort of drama between the two of them. And, that bothers me, to be honest. That's probably the one thing that I don't like about doing these videos, doing things in the mob, in this mob space, is that people love the drama. People love, they tune into that. That's what they want to see, the negativity. For me, I don't think Tommy, it makes much sense to go on with Jimmy. It could happen. Like I said, never say never. There's been more surprising things that have happened. I think it would be probably a decent interview. But at the same time, Tommy, understand, he stayed with his, he didn't rat. He paid his price in prison. I don't see him ever sitting down with Jimmy, but for them to have problems with each other, I don't see that at all. I just don't think that Tommy's going to dwell at all on Jimmy Calandra, and I have a feeling Jimmy's not going to dwell too much on Tommy, and I don't see anything that's going to cause a beef between the two of them. I think they're happy to be out. They're happy to be free. And so that's my opinion on it. So what do you think about all this? What do you think is going to happen with Tommy Reynolds? What do you think of these people that are criticizing Tommy or Chad March for that interview? What's up with all that? So do you think that one day Tommy will sit down with Jimmy Calandra? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And until next time, thanks for watching. Take care, stay safe, and God bless you always.